Bava Daf Kuf Kaf Amud Aleph. Elitism, honor and equality. Chachma vezikna. One of the things you learn quite quickly, as you know, when you come to Israel, especially if you were somewhat accomplished or well known in your country of origin, one of the things you learn is that in Israel, everybody's a somebody and therefore nobody's an anybody. There's something quite refreshing about that. But that really only works in terms of how you can expect to be treated. But it shouldn't govern how you treat others, because whether we're in Israel or we're not in Israel, we still have laws of kavod, halachot that determine how you show respect and honor to another person. And honor means you treat somebody differently. That's how you show honor. By treating everybody the same, you're honoring nobody. And I'm not talking about general honor, to honor humanity, but the halachot of kavod, kibud aveim, kibud rav, kibud talmid chochem, kibud zoken, mipnei seva takum. We've got all of these halachot which require that we do single people out and treat them differently. So while in terms of our expectation of how others treat us, it's refreshing to understand that principle, that here everybody's a somebody, so nobody's an anybody. But in terms of how we treat others, that's not the governing principle. The governing principle should be one has to treat people according to who they are. And the difficulty with that, with all the dinim of kavod, is how subjective is it? Does that mean that I think this person's an Adam Choshev, so I'll honor this person, and you think that person's an Adam Choshev, so you'll honor that person. And then you start insulting people, because implied in honor, since you're singling somebody out for specific honor, you're singling him out and uplifting him. There's also an implication then of him being better in that area, or more valuable or honored in that area than the person next to him. So there's the risk of insulting, of humiliating another person. How do we manage that? And so the extent to which kavod needs to be something measurable, or for something measurable, is important. But the underlying principle is that who we honor is also an expression, or is primarily an expression, of what we honor. It's not about honoring the person. It's about the value. If you honor a wealthy person, it means you value wealth. If you honor an academically brilliant person, it means you value academics. If you honor a tzaddik, it means you value tzidkus. So who you honor is an expression of what you honor. If you honor nobody, you value nothing. And therefore the way we work with kavod becomes very important. We've got kavod even with inanimate objects. Chumash goes on top of a siddur goes on top of a mishnah goes on top of a gemara. Even objects are treated differently. We don't just treat everything the same on one common level. And all of this, or a lot of this, we learn out from the psukim of the Benot Tzlofchad. It's back again to the daughters of Tzlofchad, from whom we learn important principles in the laws of Nachala and the laws of inheritance, but we also learn an important principle in the laws of kavod. And that comes from the fact that they are listed in two separate places, in Parshas Pinchas and in Parashat Masai, not very far from one another, but they're listed in a different order. In Parashat Pinchas, Machla Noah Chogla Milka Tirza, and in Parashat Masai, it's Machla Tirza Chogla Milka Noah. So the order is different. Why the difference? Says our Gemara, Lahalan Mena'an HaKatuv Derech Gedulatan, V'karen Derech Chochmatam. In the one case, they are listed according to their age, and in the other, they're listed according to their wisdom. Why the difference? Messiah Leile Rabbi Ami. This supports a law of Rabbi Ami. To Omer Rabbi Ami, because Rabbi Ami said, B'yeshiva helech achar chochma. People are sitting down in a court of law, in a beis din, or they're sitting down in a beis hamedrash, or in a shiur, and they're discussing Torah, then the person who sits at the top of the table is the one who is the greatest in chochma. B'mesibah, but if you're at a party, if you're at a wedding or a simcha, the person who sits at the top of the table is the Zayda, the oldest person. And we see that here because where they're mentioned, the first time they mentioned Vatikravna Benot Tzlofchad, that's where they challenge Moshe on the laws of Nachala. So they're talking to Moshe in matters of Torah and Halacha. So there they're listed according to their wisdom. In the second case, it's vatiyena machla tirza etc. livnei dodehem lenashim. They married their cousins. We're talking about the chasna. We're talking about the wedding. There they listed according to their age, and that supports Rabbi Ami that kavod is situational. How much value you attach to something depends in what societal milieu you are at that given moment. If you're in Wall Street, you'll attach chashivas to a successful business person, to a wealthy person. If you're in a Beis HaMedrash, it'll be to the chacham, to the Talmud chacham. If you're in a social situation, it'll be to the zoken. It'll be to the oldest person. The whole idea of how we treat a Talmud chacham and a zoken is dealt with quite extensively in Kiddushin Daf Lamed Beis. And there, the meaning of a zoken is discussed. When it says mipnei seva takum and v'hadarta pnei zaken, what does it actually mean? And the Gemara says that zaken means zeh shekana chokhmah, that even an old person is somebody who has acquired wisdom. Age is not just a question of how antique a person is. The question is, the question is, what has he gained through his years of life experience? So there are two ways that one can acquire wisdom. One can acquire wisdom from teachers, whether those teachers are live teachers or they're sforim. We gain wisdom from those who came before us, and we gain wisdom from the experiences of life. As we discussed yesterday with the Mekashesh Eitzim, that he wanted to give the experience of the halacha, not just the facts of the halacha. We gain wisdom through experience. Zeh shekana chokhmah is somebody who through his years of life has built up a body of experience that gives him life wisdom. And life wisdom is also something that we need to value. So if you're sitting in a discussion of Torah, there's a meeting taking place, and we're in learning, then what do we value in that social milieu? We value Torah, and therefore the Talmid Chacham sits at the top. But in a social milieu, what do we value? We value life experience. We want to hear stories. We want to hear the stories of the life. We want to hear life experiences. That's a different kind of conversation. It's a different kind of milieu, and we value differently. So in that case, we value the zaken. That's what Rabbi Ami is mechades. That's what Rabbi Ami teaches us. And the Gemara says it's supported by the way the daughters of Tzlofchad are listed differently in each of those different social situations. What happens, so Rav Ashi then goes on and says, Vahu, this that you put the Talmid Chacham at the top when you're talking about Torah, and you put the elder at the top when it's a social situation, hu de maflig b'chochma, vahu de maflig b'zikna. Adds Rav Ashi, that's provided the Chacham, the wise person, is maflig b'chochma. Maflig means distinguished by his wisdom. From palug, set aside. He's recognized for his wisdom. So it's not subjective. That's what Rav Ashi is adding. It's not just, I think this man's a Talmid Chacham, so he should sit at the top. No, the maflig b'chochma, it's got to be somebody who's well known. Everybody recognizes that he's distinguished. He's in a different category. For who the maflig b'zikna, the same applies with a zoken. This is a person whose life experience is globally recognized. It's communally, nationally recognized. Everybody knows this is a zoken. We're not playing with subjective viewpoints here. It's something that has to be well known. That's what Rav Ashi introduces here. The question is asked by the Rishonim, what happens if they're not maflig b'chochma or maflig b'zikna? One is wiser, so you're sitting at an occasion, a social occasion or a Torah occasion, and there are two Talmidei Chachomim there. One is an older person, he's a Talmid Chacham, but not as great as the other one there, who's a younger man, but he's a great Talmid Chacham. Not muflag b'chochma. He's well known and is the Posek Hador or is the Rov of the city. We're not talking about that. He's known, he's learned a long time, and he's a Chacham. And next to him is a person who's not as much of a Chacham. The Rishonim say he has to be somewhat of a Chacham. You don't honor fools, so he's somewhat of a Chacham, but he's older. That's his claim to be. How do you treat them? The Ran says in Kiddushin, then they're both equal. It's the same as if they are both exceptional. If they are both exceptional, then Rav Ashi says what? In a social situation, you honor the zaken, the older, and in a Torah situation, you honor the wiser. So the same applies if neither of them are distinguished by their age or by their wisdom, then their distinction is equal. One's wiser and one's older. So in a social situation, the older one takes precedence, and in a in a Torah situation, the wiser one takes precedence. That's how the Ran learns it. The Rashbam works out beautifully that that's not right based on Rav Ashi. That when Rav Ashi says, this that you treat one, or you honor one in a social situation, and you honor a different one in an academic situation, that is when they're both maflig, when they're both distinguished by their age or by their wisdom respectively. Implying, so that's when you give them, you treat they both have a place of exceptionality. Implying, if neither of them are exceptional in wisdom or in age, just one's older and one's wiser, then one of them always has precedence. It's not that here the one gets and there the other one gets. One of them always has precedence. Which one is it? Says the Rashbam, it's not clear which one it is, so you have to reason it out. And the Rashbam says an amazing thing. In such a case, always give the older person precedence. So now you've got a situation, you're in shul, or you're at a shir, or you're at a party, or at a dinner, whatever the case may be. And there's a Talmid Chochem, and there's somebody who's not as much of a Talmid Chochem, but he's older. Always go after the older one. Because the youngster is a little brighter and a little bit more knowledgeable, that's not a reason to insult the older one. So here the Rashbam introduces this idea, you've got to be careful. Sometimes if you make subjective choices about who to honor, you're actually making a statement about the other person. It's not just a statement about the one you're honoring, you're also making a statement about the other one. And if you elevate the youngster, neither of them are well known, it's your opinion that he's more of a Talmid Chochem. The older one could feel a little bit humiliated as a result of that, and that's a terrible thing. To cause somebody to feel less, that's a thing we don't want to do. So what will we do then? We'll honor the older person. What about insulting the wise person then? So now you've got the 65-year-old gets honored, and the 45-year-old is a Talmid Chochem, bigger than the older person. He doesn't he get embarrassed? No, v'chacham eino bosh bekach. The Talmid Chochem doesn't get embarrassed. It's quite clear that there's an objective standard being used. You're not giving this man honor because you think he's better than me. It's just a matter of arithmetic. It's a matter of math. The fact is he's older. He's been in the world longer than I have. He's had more life experience than I have. We've both got a bit of chokmah. What are we going to leave it to individuals to decide who's the greater Talmid Chochem? We're not going to do that. By objective measure, this is the one to give the honor to. So the Rashbam teaches us such an important principle here. Firstly, two principles. Firstly, he teaches us, be careful that your honoring of one person doesn't insult another person. That will happen when you're using subjective criteria to decide who to honor, because you're making a statement about the other one too. However, if you're using objective measures of honoring, then there's no question of humiliating anybody. Then it's very clear why you're doing it. There are objective measures, and that's something we see, for example, in the structure of society, in general society, or in a company. You'll treat the CEO with more honor than you'll treat the CFO, and you'll treat the CFO with more honor than the VP of something or other. And nobody gets insulted by that. Everybody understands he's the CEO and he's a CFO and he's a VP. These people have different statuses, and it's very clear. So it is with age, it's very clear. With muflag, it's very clear. If somebody is muflag, then society has made a statement. But if there isn't muflag, if this person is not distinguished socially in this society, in this particular society, this person is not distinguished by that factor, now we're getting into subjective criteria. We can't do it by subjective criteria, then we have to use age, which is not a subjective criterion, it's an objective criterion. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins that way. It's an important, this is a halakha in Shulchan Aruch, like all the other halachot of Shulchan Aruch that we're careful to follow. This is also a halakha that we have to be careful to follow. Hayu biyachad, chacham shemuflag b'chokhma v'hu bachur, v'zaken shemuflag b'zikna v'hu chacham k'tzat. If there are two people in the same room, one is a well-established Talmid Chochem, but he's young, and one is a respected elder, and he's got chokhmah as well, but he's not as big a Talmid Chochem as the young man. If this is a meeting of Torah, you give the young Talmid Chochem precedence. If it's a party, a social occasion, or a wedding, there you follow the older person, because the age there is something to value. And then in the end, what about if neither are muflag? Neither of them are distinguished, neither in age or in wisdom. Then you'll always go after age. The Shulchan Aruch paskening like the Rashbam, not like the Ran. The Be'er HaGola unusually not only quotes the source of the Shulchan Aruch, but quotes the logic of the Rashbam, because it's only worked out by logic. The Ran says there is no logic. The Gemara doesn't tell us what to do when neither of them are exceptional, when neither of them are distinguished. And therefore treat them the same as when they're both distinguished. No, says the Rashbam, you can reason it out. And the Be'er HaGola actually quotes the reasoning. The Shach brings the Ran, La halacha, but the Vilna Gaon quotes his great-grandfather, the Be'er HaGola, and the Rosh, the fact that the Rosh paskins this way, and he concludes like our Rashbam in our Sugya of Gemara, that when neither of them are muflag, that neither of them are distinguished, one's wiser and one's older, you will always go after the years, because that's objective, and by choosing to respect somebody for their age, you're not showing any kind of subjective preference, and therefore there's no implication of insults to the other person. And so we have to be careful of that and not be too taken by this fact. As the recipients of COVID in Israel, it's a wonderful lesson to learn. Here everybody is a somebody, everybody has a story, everybody's made a contribution, everybody is exceptional in some way or another. That's it's one of the many things that is so amazing about Eretz Israel and who it's attracted. It's attracted the cream of society, generally speaking. Everybody who's here has accomplished something either before they came or once they're here. Everybody has a story, and their stories are valuable and are meaningful, and therefore nobody is anybody. Don't expect to be treated as anybody special, because you're special in your area, and the person sitting next to you, you don't know his story, but if you start talking to him, you'll discover he's exceptional in his area in just the same way as you're exceptional in your area. So everybody gets treated with honor. But when we choose how to treat others, that's not the criterion to use. When we how to treat others, we use the Shulchan Aruch, we use the Gemara, and we treat people according to what we value. If we treat everybody the same, you come into a shul and everybody's sitting the same, nobody has any special seat, there's no mizrach, nobody sits up front, there's a big Talmud Chacham there, he sits in the back of the shul like everybody else, you might say that's quite cute. Well, it's quite cute, but it's not so cute, because it means the shul doesn't show kovod to Torah. If you have an elderly man, and the old man is also just sitting at the back somewhere, he's not treated with any kind of respect, what does that mean? It doesn't mean, it's a democratic kind of place, everybody here is treated the same, isn't that nice? No, it's not nice. It's nice in one way, but it's not nice in the sense that it's a statement about what the shul honors, what the shul values. If the shul doesn't treat an older person with additional respect, it means they don't value age. If the shul doesn't treat a Talmid Chacham with additional respect, it means they don't value Chachma. And the same applies about a social situation, the same applies about a family, who the family shows kovod to, how the family shows kovod. All of these things are expressions of our value system, of who we are as human beings, who we are as people, and who we are as Jewish people and as B'nai Torah.